Yes, everyone, what's going on? Stephen Howson. This is a little bit of transfer talk. It's been deadly quiet, hasn't it? Last 28, 48 hours or so. So let's have a look what is actually happening then. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer supposedly has been given only £100 million to spend to strengthen Manchester United this summer. And further spending is likely going to be dependent on money raised by sales. That's coming from Mark Ogden. Solskjaer's Man United rebuild has been derailed by a series of low-ball transfer offers for targets that include Wan-Bissaka, and that's coming from The Sun. This sort of backs up something which I posted into my Patreon group on the 11th of June, which was that Solskjaer was told he was going to be able to undertake a full rebuild of Manchester United and starting that this summer. What has actually happened is it seems like the Glazers may have gone back on their word on that. I didn't have the figure of 100 million that Mark's got. What I'd heard was he was promised something, he isn't going to be getting what he was promised. And then when you add that up to the fact that it sounds like we pulled out of the Sancho deal, there's delays going on over this Bruno Fernandes deal, which I haven't heard anything of. The only one that is currently ongoing that I'd heard anything of was Wan-Bissaka. Everybody in the Patreon group was told that he was United's target all the way back in March. That's one I expect us to get on with. We are going to talk about Fernandes. We're also going to talk about Lukaku and Sanchez as well. But I just wanted to sort of talk more generally about what appears to be going on with this transfer window. If Solskjaer was promised something, considering he only signed his contract back a couple of months ago, if he was promised something at that stage and then they've now pulled the rug out from underneath him and told he's not going to be getting that, that's horrific. Highlights the need for a director of football, but it also highlights the need for the owners to actually put their hand in and invest. You can't keep up by minimum effort. If everybody else is reaching for the moon and you're just like, well, what's the least we can get away with doing? We're going to be overtaken. Now, we had a quick look at before. It was a throwaway comment by someone in the office that Leicester are probably better than United. And you go, nah. And then you actually have a look at the starting 11 of Leicester, and most people would probably say that De Gea over Schmeichel, but form at the end of the season, there could be a case to make that you might have Schmeichel over De Gea. Certainly if we replaced De Gea with Schmeichel this summer, I don't think many people would be overly asked about that. Then you go, well, Harry Maguire, well, yeah, he's better than our defence. Pereira, better than our defence. Chilwell is probably better than Shaw. Johnny Evans, would I take Lindelof over Johnny Evans? Probably would, but there's still an argument to be made there, isn't there? And then the midfield that they've got, you go Ndidi, Tielemans, and Maddison. It's a better midfield three than we've got all day long. All day long, that's a better midfield three than we've got. And then you go Vardy up front, make a case that he'd probably start for United if he played at United. Where they're a little bit on the weak side is the wings. You're looking at maybe Albright and Barnes. Probably not as strong as United. There's a bad, sad state of affairs if Manchester United are not as good as Leicester City starting 11. But not only are Manchester United not as good as Leicester City starting 11, they've got more Premier League winners than us. How bad is that? How bad is Leicester having more Premier League champions than United have got, by a long way as well? United need a massive, massive rebuild, and you're not going to do it by spending 100 million. 100 million now is nothing. There's a lot of players that are going to go for in excess of 100 million. A good player is going to cost you 100 million. We arguably needed 5 before the window started. If one of our spine players goes, you have to replace him as well as the 5 that we needed. You can't just patchwork this up. Now, at some point, there's going to be a switch to go, do you know what, you've got to play some youngsters. And I think that there's a sensible switch to trying to recruit our own players. The likes of Mahrez and Kante was well scouted by Leicester. Very well scouted by Leicester. And I'd like to see United try to find those gems rather than going for the ready-made polished players. That's United's way, is to go with those players. So I want to see us go with those players. I want to see us find those players, and I want to see us actually try and undertake a rebuilding. All he needs to be able to do that, or he's going to have no chance of success whatsoever. So, Bruno Fernandes, that's the first one, really, that we've got any sort of update on now. It seems like United are about to advance and put their cards on the table, is what Ebola are saying for Bruno Fernandes. The club are in pole position and met his agent this week. There's Sky Sports News are reporting that Spurs have cooled their interest in the player. Multiple reports stating that his agent is in London and he's been having talks with Spurs and Manchester United. City are apparently no longer in for him as they've set their sights on Rodri from Atletico Madrid, and it seems like João Felix is going to be going to Atletico Madrid as well. 28 goals in all competitions this season, 3.2 key passes per game, and he's fouled nearly 2.5 times per game as well. Bruno Fernandes is a top-level footballer. I don't think we saw the best out of him in that little Nations League, little round robin that we just saw then. I think there's areas to his game that would be tested greater than we've seen at international and in the Portuguese league. But make no mistake, he improves Manchester United. And I think if we lost Paul Pogba, which I don't think is impossible, I think if we did lose Paul Pogba, then somebody like Bruno Fernandes coming in, I think would be a very positive thing for someone to take control of that creative responsibility in a team. Whether or not we actually get that over the line, I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. Wan-Bissaka. Now, it sounds like the deal is all but done. Multiple reports are stating that personal terms have been agreed. The only issue is the payment structure. They're saying that United and Palace have sort of more or less come to terms with an actual fee, but the structure of that, whether it's going to be half up front, 30% up front, some now, some in a year, basically how this deal is going to go down is what's holding it back, supposedly, so far, whether it's up front, what the bonuses are and all that sort of stuff. However, Simon Stone, friend of the show, he tweeted last night that the deal is not closed and it's very fluid and it's changing all the time. So I guess we'll just have to see what the crack is with that. He might have been briefed from somebody at the club to say that. Dominic Feifel says there's no agreement had been reached between Crystal Palace and United, and talks are ongoing over Wan-Bissaka. England under-21 coach Adi Boothroyd said that Wan-Bissaka has been distracted due to the heavy speculation linking him with Manchester United. Obviously, Wan-Bissaka criticised heavily for the own goal that he scored. Own goals, it's not been done deliberately, isn't it? I think it just happens. It's one of those. Didn't clear it, didn't deal with the threat, and put it in his own net. It happens. But I would hope that United's scouting of him doesn't change. I think that if the deal wouldn't swing wildly on one mistake in one game. If it does, then it shows me that we haven't extensively scouted this guy and we're actually just looking at potential flavour of the month, which isn't good enough for me. On the outs, you're looking at Romelu Lukaku. This guy couldn't have made it any clearer that he wanted to go. Gazzetta dello Sport reporting that him and Inter Milan have agreed a transfer, in terms of his fees, but they haven't agreed the fee with United. They've offered him around about €6 million a year. Romano has come out and said that Inter Milan need to offload Icardi first before they have any chance of financing the deal for Lukaku. They hope to raise around $60 million by selling Icardi. And it seems like the bookmakers see the transfer saga coming to an end. Lukaku's now 1-4 to join Inter in this summer's window. The Sun are also reporting that Inter have put forward Icardi as part of a cash plus player swap for Lukaku. I think Icardi is more of an improvement in terms of his movement outside the box, but he's not a player that I would be delighted to see in a United shirt. I think if we're going in a different direction, I'd like to see us properly go in a different direction, and the baggage that comes with Icardi doesn't really interest me in the slightest. Alexis Sanchez. Now, a lot of people are going, Alexis Sanchez messed up United's wage structure, killed the momentum of like Rashford and Martial, and it just hasn't really worked out for him in a United shirt. In any of the systems that he's been played, just hasn't really hit the heights that he hit when he was at Arsenal. Earlier in the week, Brazilian journalist Jorge Nicola claimed that Palmeiras had made an approach to try and find out if they could get Sanchez out of United. It was reported that the club gave up after learning how much he's on per week, which is... It's surprising that they didn't know because it's such a meme how much he's earning. But apparently they've seen their ass with that. Apparently it's 6 times the salary of Palmeiras' best paid squad member. So yeah, that wasn't going to happen. He also says Palmeiras wanted to sign Sanchez on a loan. paying a minor part of his wages, and United weren't interested in that as well. So he says there's a possibility. The possibility has been completely ruled out by United, and that's the end of that as far as Palmeiras are concerned. But it looks like there is an availability for Sanchez. So if you've got super mega deep pockets and you fancy a guy that maybe doesn't quite perform to what you wanted, maybe Sanchez is the guy for you. Righty, thank you guys for joining us. That's it from me for today. Make sure to subscribe if you're new around here. Get your suggestions in for who else you want to see on the warm down. And if you've not seen Monday's or Tuesday's video actually with Danny Higginbottom, which has gone down really well, then make sure to go and check that one out. I think we may have Dennis Law in a couple of weeks, hopefully before the tour. So make sure to subscribe if you're interested in seeing that one. Like I said, get your suggestions down in below, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters.